now AMD's hit back hard over the last couple of years, and they've introduced the EPYC Milan series. So let's have a look at the announcement. I'll put this back on the screen. Let's see, M6A. So the announcement from Amazon is this M6A and C6A, which are now kind of generally available in many regions. They're powered by this third generation AMD EPYC, all-core frequency of 3.6 gigahertz, a big increase over the M5. But again, this is a different ballgame than we're talking about when we're talking about the Gravitons. The Gravitons are cheaper to run. They're not hot. Should we just have a quick look at what the Milan looks like, just for a visual impact?
Absolutely.
All right. So this is Linus from Linus Tech Tips, and he's going to show us. And I'll post the link to his video. But let's have a look.
This is the top of the line, L's and G's. The EPYC 7763 that I'm holding in my hand, yeah, it may only run at a mere 2.45 gigahertz base, 3.5 gigahertz boost, but don't let that fool you. This ain't no Civic, okay? This is the Hummer with the Cummins swap, all right? Man, these things are huge. I can't get over it.
It's pretty big.
Why do they have to make them so big? It's not a measuring contest. Just never gets old, you know? I think the only way to get a bigger one is to buy one on lttstore.com. Oh yeah, by the way, we're gonna have EPYC Threadripper shaped ones coming soon, probably in a few months. Now, of course, Yoda would happily remind all of us that size, not important. Performance is what matters. And when it comes to performance, this is pretty much the finest display of kicking someone while they're down that I think I have ever seen. And I don't even feel bad. Here's the thing. Intel's latest and greatest 10 nanometer Ice Lake Xeons, they've got some platform advantages, particularly when they're paired with Intel's Optane memory. But for purely CPU-bound applications, I mean, they're not even competitive with AMD's last generation EPYC Rome chips price for price, let alone the new ones. Because here's the thing, AMD comes in with more cores, more gigahertz, more cache, and literally double the PCI Express lanes per socket. Yet, AMD still prices their top dog cheaper than Intel's top dog. And you might think, well, at $8,000 a chip, 200 bucks, that's a rounding error, right? But if you're buying 1,000 of them at a time, like Intel thinks you are, sorry Intel, not good enough for you, I guess. That works out to $250,000.
All right. So it was good to see that. I'm going to pause it there. Look back here. Look at that size of the fan that he's putting. So while he was talking, he was installing these massive supports for this enormous chunk of aluminum heatsink. And so this is what you were saying, Raul, this TDP. This is a different philosophy of CPUs. And if you want really just blazing fast performance, this is a good option. But it's a different approach that's really, really hot and more power hungry than a Graviton.
Yeah, so finally, if you remember, I was talking about the use or the rack space use. This one looks like a 4U build. Like I can't imagine how that fan would, fit in less than 4U. So, I mean, that's the amount of space that just cooling would use up if you were to kind of build a data center based on these kind of processes. It's just the heat. You have to figure out a way to cool them efficiently.
So under what circumstances would you choose this compared to a Graviton? And when would you choose the Intel?
So I think the more I think about it, I would not go for the Intel. So it's just a difference between choosing choosing an AMD EPYC processor versus Graviton. And at the end of the day, given that it's a cloud workload, all you should care about is your price performance for your particular workload. And for some unique scenarios, AMD probably would be better. But I think largely when you look at a lot of general purpose workloads, ARM is actually kind of winning that race at this point from a price performance standpoint. And given that AWS's overheads are going to be far less in custom building their own chips and running them and offering it to customers, My bet is on Graviton. Like even if there were a few workloads that are optimized right now for AMD, if I look at the next 2 or 3 years, I expect that pretty much every workload would be running on Graviton.
That makes a lot of sense. And I asked a few other colleagues about the same question of when would you choose, when would you make this choice? And that's basically the consensus. And then again, sorry, we don't mean to rag on Intel. It's just the state of the world at the moment. And things go back and forth. You'll never know. Hopefully that they'll innovate. But I guess if you have a high performance computing workload that's very, very tailored to a particular instruction set with hand coded assembly functions that are targeting AVX 512 or some other particular instruction set, then you'd want to go there because there's a huge investment in developer time. But when, like what you're saying, for general purpose, let's most likely the Graviton 3s are going to be your best bet.
Absolutely.
All right. So should we wrap up anything else on the instance types? I think we've had a really good discussion about this.
Yeah, I think we spent way longer than we had anticipated on this particular topic. But again, it's just such an interesting announcement and an interesting area where today customers actually have to make the bet. You have to decide whether you're going to be on x86 or the ARM set of processors, and knowing all this stuff is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really fun to think about and see. I guess one great thing is you see that there's healthy competition that's just driving this forward. I'm glad that there isn't just one architecture to choose from.
Absolutely.